All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of those normal items to take care of. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can type those in by clicking the Q&A section in the lower portion of your control panel. We'll be posting a recording of the webinar on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you'd like a PDF copy of the presentation, there will be a link to download that on that same post as the recording. If your question does not get answered today, or if any other questions pop up, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. All right, so what do we have on the agenda for today? Well, we're in a great time of year for a lot of people. We're also in kind of a rough time of year for some people as well. The weather can be a barrier for some of us getting the vitamin D our body needs. We may be missing a loved one during this holiday season, and not so good food is seemingly everywhere you turn. And the problem with that not so good food is that it's an easy coping mechanism for the stress we have this time of year, right? So we'll be touching on some of the typical stressors that we have during this season and some tips to think about to help deal with those stressors in hopes that we prevent those emotional eating episodes that can pop up. We'll touch on some easy stress management ideas that don't involve food, and then go over a few tips to help get you through those holiday parties. I'll even throw in a couple recipes for you at the end as well. All right, typical stressors for this time of year. Let's start with financial stress. We love to buy gifts for our loved ones, right? Absolutely. But we also need to think big picture. So I know some of you have already started or done shopping for your holiday gifts, but let's talk about some things to think about for those who haven't yet, or for next year if you're all done for this year. Start with communication. Sit down with your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mom, your dad, yourself, whomever you make financial decisions with, and decide what you want to do this year for a budget. Set expectations of what's realistic. Again, I know it's fun to go crazy with gifts, but if you're going to end up putting more stress on yourself and your finances and in turn your mental health or your relationships, might not be worth it. So again, just talk it through, be realistic, set an amount. You can also look for sales. This time of year, there are sales and deals everywhere. Just be mindful that it's actually a true deal and not just a gimmick to make you spend more, right? And just make sure you're still aware that what you're spending in total as well, because things do add up quickly, even if they are amazing deals. Also think about making your gifts. What mom or dad, grandpa, grandma doesn't love a good handprint snowman from the kids or grandkids, right? Or head to Pinterest, and the world of homemade gifts is at your fingertips. There are really amazing gifts out there that cost a fraction of those mass-produced things out there that your friends or family will love, maybe even more, knowing that you spent time and effort into making. So again, budget, look for sales, get creative when it comes to financial stress during the holidays. And keep in mind that budgeting not only works for this time of year, but it works for any time of year. If you start paying attention to your spending in January, you may find that you don't have the same worries about finances come this time next year. Side note on this, if your company or if your bank does a holiday club, use it if you can. If you're able to set aside, then you know you've got some extra money that you can use next holiday season. And if you're like me, you forget about it and then you get that extra in your check and it'll be that much better. All right. Next stressor, our schedule. As you already know, this time of year can be crazy. So take some time today, if you can, to map out your next couple months or however long you've got for holiday stuff, what parties, what meetings, what travel you have to do. If you have a clear understanding of what time you have, you can be more realistic with yourself when it comes to other things that pop up. And then don't forget about the exercise and time for yourself and relaxing too. Now, while it may be harder than other times of the year, you still need to make time for you. Even if it's 5 minutes, try to make some time, sit and reflect on what you're grateful for, do some deep breathing or quick exercise, couple set of lunges through the kitchen, right? Now, I want you to actually physically write down the word relax or exercise on your schedule and pretend you can't break that appointment. You have to make yourself a priority or the stress can overwhelm you. On this note, and this will make some of you cringe, it's okay to say no. You don't have to attend every holiday party. You don't have to bake 18 dozen cookies for the bake sale going on. I know we all want to help out, and that's fantastic. You should definitely have time built in for volunteering and helping out the less fortunate, but know your limits. Make 2 dozen cookies. Pick one party instead of going to all three. One of the best sayings out there is that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So when you're saying yes to staying out late at a party, you're saying no to quality sleep, which will hurt your decision making when it comes to food, by the way. When you say yes to baking 18 dozen cookies, you're saying no to relaxing or spending time with your family. Think about those things when you're caught up in saying yes to everything. Now, I know things are going to pop up, but if you're prepared and you know your schedule, you should be able to overcome anything this year throws your way. The last kind of normal stressor that I want to touch on in this area is stress due to emotions surrounding this time of year. This is a tough topic. It can be that you lost a loved one and you're thinking of them during this time. This can lead to feelings of loneliness and can even lead to depression. You can already have seasonal depression factoring into play as well, which can be due to chemical imbalances, lack of vitamin D from lack of sunlight exposure this time of year. But whatever the reason, some of us or our friends or our family are struggling. So the first tip I have for this kind of stress is to acknowledge that it's there. Some people don't understand how we can be sad, mad, or whatever because it's the holidays, right? We should all be happy. No, there's no right way to feel when we're dealing with emotional stress. Don't try to ignore any symptoms you're feeling just because you aren't supposed to feel that way. If you realize that you've got some emotional stress, reach out. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, a family member, your doctor, a therapist, whomever you trust to talk seriously about your feelings. And if you feel like it's getting to that more serious level, like possible depression, call your doctor. They can recommend someone to talk to. Your work may also have an employee assistance program that can recommend a professional to talk to, and it's all anonymous. But whatever you do, don't do nothing because you deserve to have a happy holiday season just like everyone else. And getting help with emotional stress can help you do that. Also, be realistic. Now, what I mean by this is don't stretch yourself thin with commitments that you know will add to your stress. If you don't feel like you can go to that event because it'll be overwhelming, then don't go. Know your triggers and do your best to either avoid or be prepared for them. My other tips like budgeting your spending, planning your schedule to add in time for relaxation, for exercise, or fun things that you would look forward to is important as well. Or maybe it's just as simple as planning to get enough sleep. There is a link between sleep and depression, and also between exercise and helping symptoms of depression. Or it doesn't have to be that serious, just not feeling good. That sleep, that exercise can help. So make them both a top priority. If you can get outside with that exercise, even better, because you can get yourself some of that vitamin D I talked about. On the other side, maybe take some time to help out those less fortunate than you. Sometimes doing something for others can help your own outlook and can help with that stress. Another emotional stressor this time of year is not just missing family members who are gone, but also being with family members you don't necessarily see eye to eye with. How do we deal with that? Well, it's not easy, right? But a couple strategies to think about. First is simply call a truce for the time you're together. You know, you don't agree. You don't have to pretend to be best friends, but you can also be civil to each other. If not for you, for the sake of the rest of your family, as they want to be around both of you, right? If you know there are topics that could polarize the family, then try to avoid that topic. And then if something does arise, maybe stemming from another person, not even you, that's looking like it might turn a little ugly, try to walk away. Get yourself out of the situation for the moment. Come back when things calm down. Again, I know these are easier said than done, but if your goal is to avoid emotional stress for yourself during this time and for the rest of the people you're with, give it a shot. All right, let's move on to some things that you can do to help de-stress this time of year without turning to that feel good in the moment food. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but just some things to get those wheels turning for ideas for stress relieving activities. I like to refer to this as a term I've heard before, a stress management toolbox. So really simple. It's just a list of things that work for you to help calm you down and de-stress in different situations. So you can make different buckets for work, for at home, for really any situation you need, because I know you can't do some things to de-stress in different situations, right? If you're at work or if you're in the car. So having options for all of those scenarios will set you up for success. So I just want to give an example here. A tip that we use when we're talking to people who are trying to quit smoking, for example, is creating this stress toolbox. And if you get a craving, pick 3 things on that list to do before you reach for that cigarette. Now, a lot of times doing those things calms you down. It also gives that craving a time to pass, because generally they last around 5 to 10 minutes. And I tell you this because it's the same for this emotional eating craving. You feel like you need that sweet or whatever it is in the moment, but if you can delay it for even a few minutes, a lot of times that feeling will pass and you've had a time to think, okay, do I really need that? Probably not, right? It's unrealistic to try, hopefully, right? And again, I'm going to give you some examples here of things to try to add to that list. First one is simply breathing. Now, there are lots of ways to breathe to help calm you physically down in the moment. Just taking a few deep breaths, that's just fine. You don't have to do any timing. You don't have to do anything like that. Just stop, take a few deep breaths. But if you want to go a step further, you can make it more structured by counting while you breathe. I've shared these in past webinars. So a couple different methods include the 4-7-8 breathing, where you inhale for a count of 4, you hold that breath for a count of 7, and then you exhale for even longer for a count of 8, really pushing that breath out. It really relaxes your shoulders. Box breathing is similar, just a different count. You inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then you hold that exhaled breath for 4. So again, use that, don't use that, find something that works for you, but really it's about taking the time to give your brain the time to say, nope, I don't need to reach for that candy. That's not going to make me feel better. Meditation a lot of times goes along with deep breathing, right? You can repeat a mantra in your head as you focus on just breathing and being calm. There's a ton of great apps out there for your phone that have guided meditations. We have them on our blog. We have a few guided meditations, and they're all lengths. Again, 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, however long that you have, but it just helps you stop in that moment and focus on whether it's your breathing, whether it's a message, whatever it is, or just some calming music. So again, stopping, letting that calmness kind of come so we don't reach for those bad things. And speaking of music, that's a great stress reliever too, right? Create a playlist of your favorite songs or songs with good beats, whatever just gets a positive response out of you. We all know those songs that you can't not move to, right? So make a list, play that when you're not feeling so great. Hopefully that can help. And then when you're feeling good, listening to those music, write them down too. Write those thoughts down. Journaling is an extremely effective way of getting your thoughts out in an organized way, and can help reduce stress just by making you take that time to really sit and acknowledge those thoughts, right? You can get out frustrations if you need to. There's different ways to journal. You can write down your frustration. You can crumple up that piece of paper, throw it away, and then you can physically and mentally move on. Or you can do a gratefulness journal where you focus on the positives of the day to help bring a smile to your face. You don't have to physically write anything down either, right? You can take time in your commute to think about the things you're grateful for. It can just help get your head in that more positive space. Reading is another great way to just get our mind off things, right? Have some time to focus on another topic for a bit, kind of quiet our mind. Phone a friend is next, or family member, or anyone you know who has a positive influence on you and can help get you out of that funk that you might be in. Video conferencing, obviously, texting, just connecting with those people who create a positive light in your world is a good thing. And then pet your pet. If you're home and you have a furry friend, give them a little snuggle. There's lots of research out there that shows that petting a dog or a cat or any type of animal helps lower our blood pressure and has a calming effect. And hang with me here. If you're not an animal person or if you don't have a pet, using just a soft blanket can can get you a similar response. I know it sounds kind of interesting, right? But using your senses is a great way to bring mindfulness into your life and can help in stressful moments. So again, feeling a soft blanket, or honestly, the studies show just paying attention to really anything around you and how it feels, again, brings your mind into that moment. It can help quiet those outside thoughts and can help you physically calm down. Now, I already talked about listening to music. So we've got that sound and we've got the touch sense. How about smell? Most of us know there are calming scents like lavender, for example, that kind of have that calming effect. So if there's any scent that you enjoy, having a candle, having, something around can help. And then sight is that next sense. Really looking around you, finding some details to focus on. This is another mindfulness tip that brings you in the moment and can stop your brain from racing around to all those different thoughts. So it could be a person, it could be a picture of a loved one. It could be looking out the window at the nice sky or whatever view you might have. Again, just taking time to sit and use your senses brings you into that moment, can help calm you down and can help prevent kind of that other reaction. And I know I didn't say taste. I specifically didn't say that because that's what we want to avoid, right? But gum, a mint, something like that, you can use your senses with that too. But again, just be careful what you're actually tasting there. And then better yet, if you've got some time, get outside. The benefits of nature, getting outside, are well documented as well, from stress management to just our brain function, not to mention the physical effects of what I've already mentioned, getting that vitamin D. It's all good. So if you're able, try to get a dose of the outdoors as regularly as you can. And if you've got a stressful moment, if you can, that's even better. And this kind of goes along with my next tip, which is moving. Exercise has phenomenal stress reducing effects. I already mentioned it once, and you don't even have to run for an hour or go do a bunch of stuff to feel those effects. Getting up, stretching, walking in place for just a few minutes starts to get that blood flowing, starts to release those feel-good hormones in our body that can help combat those negative feelings. So again, instead of sitting there grabbing that snack, just get up, move around a little bit. It can help. Drinking water is another one. So this is a strategy for a lot of people who are looking for weight loss specifically, and it can work for emotional eating as well. So it's the same principle as delaying yourself to let that craving pass that I already talked about, but you still get to put something in your belly this time. Water has so many benefits to our health. So really any reason to drink more is beneficial. But what it can do in a stressful situation, when you want to reach for that food, is it can help your belly signal your brain that it doesn't need that snack. The water will do just fine, right? Sometimes we think we're hungry, but we might be just thirsty. So before hitting that vending machine, if you're at work or whatever it is, try drinking a glass of water. See if that helps do the trick. Laughing is my next tip on helping relieve stress. I mean, let's be honest, who doesn't love a good laugh session, right? You laugh so hard your stomach hurts. Side note, great workout too, right? Get some abs. But when you're done, you take that big deep breath, right? Everything seems more relaxed. Everything seems better in the world. It just was better than it was before. You're not as stressed, right? So thinking of a funny quote, watching a quick YouTube clip that makes you laugh, calling that friend that always has the jokes, whatever it is, we all need more laughter in our lives. So do what you can to add it in as much as you can. And then on the other side of the spectrum, sometimes we just need a good cry, right? Crying is very natural. It's a great way for our body to let out stress and emotions. If you're able to let those emotions out, it can have that similar effect to laughing. When you're done, you do feel more relaxed sometimes, right? And in a better headspace. If we hold our emotions in, they can either spill out at a very inopportune time sometimes, or you can compensate by trying to cram it down, filling your body with those foods that you think will make you feel better in the moment, but they end up making you feel worse in the long run, right? So again, if you're in a safe space, let it out. Now, like I said at the beginning, this is by no means all of the activities you can do to calm yourself down. So use these as a jumping off point. Come up with your own activities, again, that don't involve food, ideally. Keep them in that stress toolbox. And don't wait until you're stressed to practice these. Stress management techniques in times of low stress actually make you better able to deal with times of high stress, because your mind and your body are already used to doing that. It already knows that, oh, I'm starting to do this. My body, this is a positive thing. I'm going to start calming down. Your body and your mind will respond quicker to those activities. And it can actually help prevent some of that stress response our body has in the first place, because we're just in a calmer state all the time. So again, make that stress toolbox, use it as much as you can. All right, hopefully I've given you some ideas to help prevent reaching for those quick snacks or comfort foods, at least some of the time. But let's talk about ways you can make it through the rest of these holidays a little bit easier. My first tip is to eat before you go out. Now, if you're headed out to a holiday party, a family or friend's house, and you suspect that they all will not have not great choices, right? Try to eat a healthier meal before you go. Fill yourself up a little bit so you won't be as hungry, first of all, and then you won't eat as much of those bad things. And then along the same lines, drink a big glass of water. We already talked about that, like I mentioned a few minutes ago. Then also stay away from the table where the food is located if you can, so you don't mindlessly take things, right? We all like to congregate around the food. So if you're chatting, you just automatically pick stuff up. Try to chat away from that. And then stick to whole foods if you can. There's usually a protein option that's pretty simple at most get-togethers, so there's a good place to start. Try choosing the veggie sides that are the least processed. Hopefully there's a veggie tray or something similar. Just try to stick with what you know is pretty simple if possible. This can keep you safe from a lot of unwanted sugars and things like that. If it's a potluck, bring your own healthy option. Then there will be at least one thing you can take more of, and then you can take a small portion of something yummy as a treat, right? And then you're providing others with a healthier option as well. Win-win. The next step is to use a small plate. So even if you don't fill up the small plate, it makes you feel that you took more because, again, it looks bigger as a portion, right? There's actually studies on this. So it's not coming from me. This is science. And this can also prevent you from taking too many of those decadent desserts, right? You don't have to say no to those things all the time, but a smaller plate can help limit you to 1 or 2 versus 5 or 6, right? Next thing, be careful of beverages. First reason, those fruity punches are probably filled with enormous amounts of sugar. Second, if they're alcoholic beverages, your reasoning skills when it comes to eating more food typically will go right out the window. Water, of course, I'm going to say that again, is the ideal choice. Or just be reasonable with the amounts of other drinks you consume. You will thank yourself the next day for multiple reasons, right? And then if you can, try not to take too many leftovers home with you. Take as little as you can, or take the healthier options if possible. If you're hosting, get those leftovers out of the house if you can. Let others take what they want. Don't hang on to everything if you can. Or think of donating your leftovers to a nearby facility that maybe takes food donations. And while I know food is a very important part of traditions typically, right? Look to find something to do that's not centered around food as well. Crafts, board games, a winter hike. Find something to get your mind off of food. The reason for getting together for the holidays is not what we eat, right? It's to spend time with those that we love. So don't make it all about the food if you can. It can be some about the food, but not all about the food. And remember, it's called a holiday, not a holiweek or a holimonth. So treat it as such. When you get together, that's great, that's wonderful, but focus on your normal habits the rest of this holiday season surrounding those special days. All right, I promise you a couple recipes here before we get started. So first one is a substitution for a side. Sometimes those casseroles, green bean casseroles, those types of things can get a little heavy with some of that extra food and stuff. So basically, this is just taking away the casserole part of the green bean casserole, but we add in some garlic and some Parmesan that really flavors it up. Super tasty and obviously much healthier. If you want this recipe, I mentioned in the beginning that the PDF slides will be on the blog post that should get posted later today or tomorrow. So make sure you check that out if you're not able to take a screenshot. So I'm going to move on here since we're getting close to time. Second recipe, of course, we need a dessert. This one is a cranberry and pistachio chocolate bark. So a lot of us like the chocolate bark, right? This uses dark chocolate, which has health benefits. And then when you include nuts and cranberries, you're adding a ton of other nutrients, right? These slides, like I said, will be posted, but this one specifically, really give it a try. It's super good. All right, give you another second if someone wants to screenshot it. Otherwise, I'm going to move on here so we have time for questions. All right, just to wrap it up, stress is normal all of the year, right? But especially this time of year. But if you fill up that stress toolbox, you can help combat that stress without hopefully reaching for all of those sweets and goodies that we have. And again, if you do try to make them healthier, try to use those other tips that I talked about. You don't have to be perfect. Just do the best that you can, make a better choice each day, and you'll be good to go. All right. I will open up for questions here, but just wanted to talk about the webinars to start off 2022, which is incredible that we are almost there. First one though, making changes today for a healthier tomorrow, just really about setting the tone, making some good decisions at the beginning of the year to help a year from now feeling really good. And then February, Eat Real, just kind of talking about whole foods, tips on incorporating those more into your diet. Register. There is a new post registering for, you can register for all of the 2022 webinars. We have them all scheduled out. So on the blog, there's a recent post that you can do that. And then if you do use lifestyle rewards for watching these webinars, if you have to answer questions, which it will pop up and ask you to submit the answers, these are the questions. So again, like you've heard before, I don't usually make them too difficult, but again, you can get these on the PDF if you need to fill them out when you do submit. And then of course, our contact information. We are on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We've got the blog post there for, again, watching this webinar and registering for the upcoming webinars. And then you can always reach out, healthcoach@healthcheck360.com for any questions that come up either based on this webinar or anything health related, or you can give us a call and actually schedule a time to talk with the health coach. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording here and we'll open it up for some questions.